It's really no secret that cosplay is a pretty expensive hobby. I mean, between the wigs, the fabric, the makeup, armor builds, conventions, and photography, it can get a little out of hand, and things can get really expensive really fast. So today, I'm going to be breaking down exactly how I budget for cosplay without taking over my finances. And how the biggest thing that changed my spending wasn't actually spending less, it was planning where the money was going beforehand. To start with, how much does cosplay actually cost? Well, every cosplay build is going to be a little bit different. And over time, the longer that you cosplay, actually the more affordable things tend to get. When it comes to budgeting for cosplays, you have to take into consideration the costuming details, wigs, makeup that you may need to purchase, shoes or accessories, or just in general the material that you might need if you're hand making a costume. And that's just ignoring any sort of convention tickets or travel fees if you actually plan on wearing a certain costume to a specific event. And also, if you want some professional photos, usually that's gonna be kind of expensive. Not to mention props or repairs that you might have to deal with later on down the road. So to break things down a little bit more, this is my iceberg method for how I budget my cosplays. Step 1 is to decide your cosplay budget for the month. Now, I do cosplay professionally. I've been doing it full-time as a job for the past year now. And I'd rather not go into detail on how much I actually make as a content creator. But for this example, let's say I make about $2,000 a month. I think that's on average usually the minimum wage that most Americans will end up be making. So let's say for the month, I'm going to only dedicate maybe $200 that I want to spend on a cosplay build. Step 2 would be to separate the cosplay wants to the cosplay needs. I think that a lot of younger cosplayers feel like they have to cosplay and dress up as every new trending character out there, and let me tell you, if you try to do that, you're gonna go broke really fast, and honestly, you're probably gonna get really burnt out really quick. So instead, focus on the characters that you're actually really passionate about. Trust me, you'll just end up being more motivated to actually completing and finishing that costume to begin with. This example, we're going to use my latest cosplay build, which is Shock T from the Star Wars community. Which brings us to step 3, is to pick which cosplay gets priority. There are a lot of different characters that I want to dress up as. This honestly is almost unlimited, which again is kind of why I don't like it when people give me cosplay suggestions. This month, I am focusing completely on working on Shock T. She is my main priority, and I don't really want to work on anything else until she's finished. Heading over to step 4, now that we've chosen which character that we want to work on for this build, it's time to set up the maximum amounts that I'd be willing to spend. Now, I would like to keep this build under $200, but realistically, it might end up being a little closer to $500 if I'm not careful with my budget. Step 5 is really to track where I'm spending everything. And for this, I actually use a website called Millinate. I've recently discovered it, and it's been really helpful for organizing and budgeting my cosplays. Essentially, it's kind of like a website mood board. If you've ever used Pinterest, it's kind of like that, except for better because you can actually save links to it. Once I decide what character I want to cosplay, the next thing would be to research. And this is a combination of going through my closet and deciding what I can reuse, as well as looking online and studying the character designs. Now, Shock T actually isn't really that complicated looking of a character if you're ignoring the fact that she has really long legs, which are the head tails on her head. Once I find all the material that I need, reference images that'll help me for my build, as well as pattern designs that I'm going to have to purchase, I just save the links on Millinate. And from there, I can kind of total up on how much I'm actually going to be spending to build this cosplay, assuming that I don't end up breaking anything or having to repurchase certain material. And as you can see, I managed to get just a little under $200 for my budgeting. Now, a lot of the times this is just kind of researching different websites as well as thrifting to see if I can get the best deals. It's important to not buy the first thing that you see online, because oftentimes it's probably going to be a little bit more expensive than what you actually need. Now, going into my cosplaying priority system, number one, you need to prioritize the cosplays that you intend to wear to any specific events. Now, I do plan on going to an event in September, the beginning of September. I plan on cosplaying as Jill Valentine. I am in the process of putting together a Jill Valentine cosplay. However, it shouldn't take away from what I'm doing for Shock T, as Jill Valentine's costuming is very, very simple, especially in comparison to Shock T, which I am having to make almost every little thing for. Priority 2 would be cosplays that you've already started. I think that a lot of cosplayers are a little bit guilty of this, of starting new cosplays and then just not finishing them because you lose motivation. And trust me, I get that feeling, especially whenever your hyperfixation switches to something else entirely. But if you're almost complete with doing a certain character or costume, you might as well finish it, right? Priority 3 would be also just doing cosplays that you really, really want, which I guess can kind of contradict priority 2 if you're not careful. But priority 4 is ultimately just go with the characters that you are the most passionate about, because then you're more likely going to finish them. I really try to only focus on doing one cosplay build at a time. Sometimes I end up doing 2 different builds. Either one of them is going to be a little bit more complicated than the other, and the other one's going to be super simple, or vice versa. Ultimately, what I try to keep in mind is if I can't afford an entire cosplay without putting myself in a bad financial position, I'm less likely to actually start working on that cosplay. Once you get your priorities in order for your cosplays, next would be really to try and figure out ways how you can save more money for your cosplays. Some of the most basic, easy hacks that I and plenty of other cosplayers do in order to save when building a new cosplay is, number one, reusing wig. You don't have to have a different wig for every single character you cosplay. You can reuse your wigs for as many different characters as you see fit. Honestly, so long as it's the same color, length, and style, you should be good to go. Next would be buying materials during sales. A lot of the times, if I see a pattern or a costume that I really like, I'll save it and then I'll wait for it to go on sale before I actually plan to do that character. Next would be, of course, thrifting costumes. You would be so shocked and so surprised how much money I have saved and how many cosplays I've built just from thrifting different pieces. I think one of the best examples would be my Supergirl cosplay. Everything that you see here 100% was thrifted online. Making costumes versus buying costumes is honestly always going to be more affordable. However, I know that this is something that is more or less contingent upon the skill set of the individual. You can also just look for promo codes and sales. I know if I'm purchasing contact lenses or wigs from a really popular company, a lot of the times I'll go to my mutuals and see if they have any sort of promo code that I can use. And if you're really in a tight financial spot, you can also just plan your cosplays based around the materials that you have. Some of my favorite cosplays that I've ever done have just been based around the materials that I already had laying around the house. Of course, avoiding impulse purchases will really help you in the long run of things, but ultimately, whenever it comes to doing really expensive, complex cosplay builds, the best thing you can do is just to expand that project over the course of several months. Like I mentioned earlier, I try to budget myself to do a cosplay that's under $200. In the case that I want to cosplay a character that I know there's just no way around it that I have to end up spending more than $200 on, I will break up that project over a span of several months. There are things where saving just makes more sense, and there are also things where buying the cheapest version just means that you'll end up buying it twice. If there's any sort of key pointers that I can give to any beginner cosplayers out there on how you can work around making a really awesome cosplay on a cheap budget, it would really be to spend most of your money focusing on the wig. The wig and the makeup, and honestly, if you can wear contact lenses, will be what makes your cosplay stand out from the rest. But that's just from what my experience really makes or breaks my cosplays. Honestly, some of my biggest cosplay spending mistakes really just be investing in poor quality makeup and wig. I find that even if I get a cheap costume, I can always improve it over time, but whenever it comes to lower quality wigs, I just don't really possess the skill set to make those look better than what they are. For the final rules that I really want you guys to take away from this video is, number one, budget before buying. Understand how much money that you generally make in a month and how much you're willing and able to spend on your cosplays. Number two would be prioritizing upcoming projects. So if there's a certain character that you want to get done before a certain event, obviously that character needs to be a priority before everything else. As well as just not overloading yourself with work by taking on too many characters that you want to do at once. Number three would be to use what you already own. Sometimes if you already have a majority of the material to make a certain cosplay, then you should just do that character before anyone else. Number four would be just don't start a project that you can't finish. What I mean by that is if you just don't have the budget to buy everything at once, maybe hold off from doing that. And for number five, cosplay should be fun. It shouldn't be something that's financially stressful. Focus on the characters that you have the ability to do within your budget, as well as the characters that you're just in general more dedicated and more passionate about. If you cosplay, I'd really love to know what your biggest cosplay expenses are, as well as some of the other struggles that you guys have, so I can understand what I should make future videos about. If you're looking to see how you can improve your cosplay photos, I have a video that I'd love to share with you guys that I'll link down in the comments below. It's 10 ways on how you can make your photos look more professional on a budget. I think that this is really great, especially for you beginner cosplayers out there, so go ahead and check out that video. Another video I'd love to share, especially for you beginner cosplayers out there who are looking to maybe turn cosplay into a profession, would be a video on how to set up a link tree. No, I'm not sponsored by this, but having some sort of link tree in your bio is crucial for content creation. And without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and end this video here today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for my next upcoming videos, as well as just to help this video reach a broad audience.